I guess it's a spoiler alert. I made it to the summit. She already said it, so I have nothing to share anymore. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you for having me here. I'm so excited to share my story. I'm just gonna do a real quick brush over. I could literally talk for hours, but we're gonna just do a quick share and then I'll do a Q&A afterwards. So if there's any questions you're dying to know, I will talk about them afterwards. And then if we have any time after, I brought some really fun mountaineering gear. This is all the stuff that I was wearing on the top of Everest for you to take a look at as well. Well, I was gonna give you a spoiler alert, but Sarah already did it. This is on day 52. I am coming back from the summit. And as you can see, I'm happy. It was a good day. I have all my fingers, all my toes. We all made it back. And one of the things that I want to share is the secrets that you don't learn. I know a lot of people, including myself, we read books and listen to podcasts, and we know so much about this mountain. But even then, with all the information I knew, there was so much that I didn't understand, and I needed to physically be there to learn. So that's the information I'm super excited to share with you. And like Sarah said, I am the first Puerto Rican woman. That makes me 0.04% of all the people that summit Everest. So I'm very proud to be a woman on top of the world. Thank you. So in case you don't know, my name is Nicole. I do live in Napa. I am a COVID transplant. I moved here during COVID. I work at the Napa airport and I am a flight attendant. So, people love to ask me, what does it really take to climb Everest? What does the training look like? And, I've been climbing mountains for 16 years. So this wasn't my first mountaineering expedition. But when I decided to climb this mountain, I knew that I needed to really train. And so my training consisted for about a year of working in all different areas. At the peak of my training, I was training about 17 hours a week. And that included 8 to 10 hours of climbing and hiking with at least a minimum of 2,000 feet of vertical height. Then I also did 2 hours in the gym. I'm going to put him on the spot with my trainer who's here, Andy. Andy, yes, he's available if you want to train for Everest or any other things. And I did 2 hours of stair climbing and 1 hour of VO2 max, all with this oxygen deprivation mask because Napa is at sea level. So I needed to simulate what it would feel like to be at high altitude. And basically the oxygen deprivation mask, it makes you feel like you can't breathe. It takes away 50% of your oxygen. And so you just feel like you're gonna hyperventilate the whole time. And then I did all of that training with my backpack full of weights. So that is what it took. I didn't have a life for a year. All I did was train and eat lots of food.
How many pounds?
That is, at the peak, I was doing 50 pounds. Yeah. So Everest is extremely expensive. The permit alone, just to step foot in the park, is $11,000. So, and I'll share a little bit more why it's so expensive for that permit. But at the lowest of the low, it costs $50,000, which is around what I paid. But I actually met people on the mountain that paid $200,000 to climb the exact same mountain. And I'm gonna share a little bit why they paid that a little later. But if I was not already climbing mountains and I had to buy the gear from day one, all of the gear, my gear alone would cost $15,000 for all of this gear. My expedition suit alone, which I got donated, cost $2,000. So you can imagine every single piece of gear is so expensive because it needs to withstand the most severe conditions, -50 degrees, and it needs to keep you safe and prevent you from dying. So it's a very expensive mountain to climb. So this is the Napa Register. Before I left, they wrote this article into the death zone. And the death zone is basically Camp 4, which is at 26,000 feet and above. And the reason it's called the death zone is because it's the altitude where you literally can't survive. At 26,000 feet, every moment that you're there, your body is being depleted and dying. And if you stay there long enough, you will die. So people ask me all the time, like, why would you want to do something so, dangerous? And, 3 years ago, I climbed Denali, and I remember coming back, and the company that I climbed with sent me a letter of certification saying that they qualified me to climb Everest. And the first thing I thought was, 1, I definitely can't afford to do that. 2, there's no way I have enough time. Like, I only get 3 weeks off a year of vacation time. And then I also thought, I don't think I'm strong enough to do this. But then there was like this little girl inside of me. And when I thought about her, it was like this girl said, I don't think I'm worthy of my dreams. I don't think I'm strong enough to do hard things. And I thought, if I have this little girl voice inside me, like how many other women and girls out there feel the same exact way? And then it didn't become about me anymore trying to climb Everest. It became about me wanting to at least show other women and little girls out there that they should at least try to do really hard things and go for their dreams. So at that point, I didn't know at that moment when I decided to go for it, like how far I would get in this journey and when I would turn around. But I knew I was gonna give it 100% and try as hard as I could until I couldn't do it anymore. And so that was the beginning of my journey. And it took me an entire year to fundraise. I had tons of companies and financial support from friends and families and companies in Napa. And one day it just all clicked and I was like, oh my gosh, I guess this is really happening. I'm really going to Nepal and gonna try to climb Mount Everest. So then I get to Nepal and I'm on day 1. We land in Lukla. How many people here have been to Denver? Any Denver? Wow, lots of Denver people. Any people have altitude sickness, shortness of breath, any issues when you were in Denver? No one? A little bit, just a little bit. It was no one. Okay. Well, the beginning of the trek into base camp, where you start, this is where you start for Everest, starts in Lukla, and Denver is about 5,280 feet. Well, Lukla, where you start your trek, is double that altitude. So the very first day, you're already in severe high altitude and people are already struggling with breathing and having altitude symptoms from day 1. And Everest isn't hard because of the mileage. It's hard because of the elevation, 29,032 feet. And so in order to be able to properly acclimate to that altitude, you're climbing about 1,000 to 1,600 feet a day, and you don't go further because that'll, make you more susceptible to altitude sickness. HAPE and HACE are severe altitude sicknesses that people get on Everest, and that's basically when you have liquid in your lungs or in your brain. And the moment you get HAPE or HACE, severe altitude sickness, your expedition's over. You're in a helicopter and they're bringing you down the mountain. And then if you don't, you can die. So the altitude is a severe issue that gets in the way of a lot of climbers. People love to ask me about trash. So I just wanna, Everest has got a lot of bad trash rep. So I had the opportunity of meeting the CEO of SPCC, which is Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee. And Sagarmatha is what they call Everest in Nepal. They don't call it Everest, they call it Sagarmatha, which is mother of the sky. And so the Sagarmatha Pollution Control Committee has actually put up these trash bins all over the trek. And so everywhere you go, there's actually trash bins that are being taken and people are taking the trash every day. I did not see barely any trash on the trek to base camp. And then when I got to base camp, it's kind of hard to see, but there's this massive, massive drone. It's probably 3 sizes bigger than these tables. It's a $40,000 drone. And this drone can carry 50 pounds of waste. And all day long, it was right behind my tent. So I just heard it all day long going up and down the mountain. It can go all the way up to Camp 2, and it's carrying down trash and bringing up supplies. And so the mountain is actually very clean. And this is a picture of base camp. As you can see, there's nowhere to bring trash. So even the trash that they bring down to base camp has to be put on a mule, has to be brought down by a porter, or put in a helicopter to bring down where it can get decomposed. So there's a massive undertaking for trash, and it's actually, the mountain is really clean. And I'm pretty confident that given technology in the next couple years, the drone will be more sophisticated and be able to go all the way up to Camp 4, which is really the only place where there's trash because people die there. It's the death zone, so trash gets left behind. And in addition to that, every single expedition company gets a fine of $4,000 if anything is left behind trash-wise at the end of the season. So I know there's a lot of pictures out there about trash. It is a clean mountain. I don't know, I don't know where those pictures, how old those pictures are, but I'm telling you it's clean. All right, so now I get to base camp. Base camp is at 17,000 feet. It took me 2.5 weeks to get there because we were slowly acclimating. And it's like a tent city. To go from one end of base camp to the other takes 1 hour. That's how large base camp is. And I know I have a couple kiddos here from the school I went to. I brought all of your letters and your cards, and I taped them all in my tent. All of the schools, the local schools, gave me such beautiful encouragement. And every morning when I woke up, I could see them. So thank you to all the kids that supported me. It's so encouraging and really, really helped. So I'm going to show you a video right now of what just our camp looked like. These are kitchen tents. Those domes are dining tents. This large dome here is an activity center where the Sherpas, the guides, the climbers hang out, and all of the yellow tents are where the climbers, the Sherpas, the guides sleep. The little tents are toilets, and these white domes here are luxury domes. So earlier I talked about people spending $200,000 to climb the mountain. Well, those people are in a luxury dome. I'm sleeping on the floor, and if you would like, you can get a dome where you have a bed frame, a mattress, a heating, like a heat pad thing in your bed, and you can stand up and enjoy being in a dome. That does cost you an extra $15,000, but if you want, you can pay for that. If you would like, you could have like a very famous guide who's been all over the world and, has climbed forever and whatnot, and that'll cost you another $20,000 to be with like this incredible guide. If you want, you can pay for more oxygen, and we'll talk a little bit more about the oxygen later, but if you would like unlimited amount of oxygen, that'll cost you another $15,000. So you can see how you could just continue to pay more and more money and pay $200,000 to climb Everest. So one of my acclimation climbs was on Mirror Peak, and this is at 19,000 feet, and this is the camp that we were at. And this was the very first time I realized it doesn't matter how strong you are, like people are just getting sick and leaving. I remember being at this camp, waking up in the morning, and one of the strongest guys that was like up the mountain as fast as he could, he was gone in the morning. Like, wait, what happened? What happened to Bob? And I was like, oh, well, he was having sickness in both ends. There's no bathroom, done, he's done. And then this other guy had heart issues, gone. And so it was the first realization that being fit isn't the only thing that keeps you from going to the top. You could just get a stomach bug and your entire expedition is over just because you got sick. And so we were on this mountain for 7 days acclimatizing, and I spent 4 days sleeping at 21,000 feet. And we started with 22 climbers. By the very end, I'll show you us on the summit, we only ended up with 6 climbers by the very end of our acclimatization. That's how many people got sick, had altitude sickness, or just were like, this sucks, I don't want to be here anymore, and just turned around, and they were all really, really strong. So this is the summit of Mirror Peak at 21,000 feet. And you can see there's just a few of us up there that made it to the top. So we are all at the beautiful Oxbow because we enjoy wonderful food and appreciate good meals. So unfortunately, there's not a lot of things you can control about the food that you eat. There's not a lot of fresh food. You're just eating what you can eat up there, but you can control the controllables. And so one of the things that I did every single day to refuel my body is I would have 1 liter of water in my sleeping bag so it wouldn't freeze. And before I ever got up out of my sleeping bag every morning, I would drink that liter of water. So every day, no matter what, I would drink 4 liters of water with hydration powders. In addition to that, I had like a little those smoothie balls, and I put it in an Nalgene, and every morning with my coffee I would put like a ton of protein powder in my coffee, and I would, before the day even starts, I'm like loaded with protein. It's just like one of those shake balls you put in smoothies. I don't know, people do that anymore, but yeah, here you can see it. Yeah, to shake it up so your powder doesn't get nasty in your drink. And then in addition to that, I would take charcoal every day just to kind of help filter all of the weird food that you're eating so you don't get sick. And that worked for me. When you're above base camp, so anything above base camp at Mirror Peak as well, you're only eating rehydration food. So the goal is just to force yourself to eat no matter how you feel, because one of the symptoms of altitude sickness is lack of hunger. You're not hungry. It doesn't feel good to eat. So you just kind of like gotta force it down. So once we got back from Mirror Peak, I kind of passed these around because I wanted to kind of try to give you a visualization. On the bottom is the days, and on the top right here is the altitude. So you can see right here, I started in Lukla, did my trek, did 1 acclimatization climb, got to base camp, then did 1 more acclimatization climb, went back to base camp. So I was in base camp for about a month. And then once I did my acclimatization climbs, you can do them on Everest, but I didn't do them on Everest. You actually I'm ready to go. I acclimatized twice to 21,000 feet. Then I went from camp 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I went to the summit. And just to give you an idea about how tall this is the height of Denver, the height of the Rockies, and camp 1 is a little taller than Denali. So I put a little oxygen tank here so you could kind of get an idea of, once I was at camp 3, I was on oxygen the whole time. So I ate, slept, walked, went to the bathroom with an oxygen tank on for 3.5 days. So, oh, that stands for Everest Base Camp. That's a really good question. So this is one of the most dangerous parts of the climb. It's called the Khumbu Icefall, and it's from base camp to camp 1. And the reason why it's so dangerous is because you're climbing over all of these glaciers. And as you can see here, this is me jumping over a crack in the glacier. It's so dangerous. And there's areas where you don't even see the glacier has a crack, and you can just like fall straight through. And so we had 1 person die on the glaciers this year. He wasn't on the ropes, but I am connected to this rope. But even if I'm connected to the rope, like I'm still falling, like it's still gonna cause some injuries. And there's some parts of the glaciers that the cracks are so long that they had 5 ladders all connected together just to pass. And you can't see my feet, but I am a size 6 shoe, which apparently is a no-go for Everest because my feet didn't fit on the ladder on both ends. like, do you know what I'm saying? When you have a ladder, there's like the side, and you're supposed to walk on it. I couldn't fit my whole foot on the ladder. So I had to cross all the ladder crossings on my tippy toes. So yeah, that was really scary. This is us at Camp 4. This is me in the middle. And this is right after the hardest day of my entire life, climbing from Camp 3 to Camp 4. And we were going completely on vertical blue ice the entire day. I kept thinking there's gotta be like some type of rest. No, it's just up, up, up. Your feet are in crampons and you're just like smacking the blue ice and your calves are on fire the entire time. And then we get to Camp 4 and we take a nap and we're like, okay, now let's go for the summit. I'm like, what? I'm so exhausted. I've had no rest. I just had the hardest day in my life and now I'm gonna do the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But you don't sleep or rest or do anything at Camp 4. It's 26,000 feet. So I took a 45-minute nap. I ate some ramen noodles, and we decided to go for the summit at 6 p.m. And we left early because we found out that there were like hundreds of people up at Camp 4 at the same time as us, and we wanted to try to avoid them all. So we decided to leave really early. And so when I went up for the summit, like, I looked around and like everyone's like, what is she doing? We were like the only people going up for the summit. And so this is my Nepali guide, Abhi. This is Pemba. Pemba is my oxygen guide. So everyone has a guide and they have an oxygen guide. If you're breathing with an oxygen tank, which 99.99% of the population is. And so you don't have enough oxygen in one tank to climb through the summit. You have to have more than one oxygen tank. And so my Pemba was carrying my extra emergency oxygen tank as well as his. They're like 10 pounds each. And then I had my oxygen tank and my gear as well. And so we swapped mid-summit and swapped oxygen. So we go for the summit. I'm exhausted, I'm tired, and I'm like, okay, we're about an hour from the summit, and I finally get a break. We finally rest, I refuel, and then I get my like second wind. I'm like, okay, I feel good. 10 minutes after I refueled and started feeling good, I saw the first dead body. And I remember seeing that body laying on the ground and thinking, I feel good. Like, I'm not gonna be that person that dies here. I'm gonna make it. I'm solid, I'm okay. Like, it didn't freak me out at all. And actually, I kind of had a conversation with the dead body. I was like, hey, I'm like, oh, I'm feeling good. And he's like, you're right, you're good. You're not gonna die like me. And I was like, you're right, dead body. And then I kept going. 10 minutes after that, my headlamp died. The battery in my headlamp died. And everything went pure black. I couldn't see a thing. And I had just replaced my batteries, but what I didn't realize is when you're at high altitude and it's really cold, what happens is even if like a brand new battery will be depleted at negative 28 degrees. So my brand new battery, because I didn't have it in a sock or something, was dead. And I just remember like screaming because I was like all by myself. I was like, I'm not gonna move. So I just was like, Abhi! And they came back. And so I had to do the last 20 minutes of the climb up to the summit in the dark with Pemba behind me and like Abhi in front of me, like kind of getting close so I could kind of sort of see where I was going. And it was crazy. It was just insane. But then we make it to the summit. This is me, 2 a.m., pitch black. I remember we got there and I didn't care that it was like dark and I couldn't see anything. I just felt like I had started climbing 16 years ago, and I just remember feeling this wave of emotion thinking, I can't believe I'm here. Like all these doubts, all these feelings of like, could I do this? Could I be here? And I'm finally at this moment where it's here and I've made it to the top. And I felt this rush of just joy, and even now, like when I come and think about it, I'm just overwhelmed. My whole body just starts zinging because it was just such an overwhelming feeling. So we stayed up there for about 30 minutes. I'm having my moment, And then we look down and we see hundreds of headlamps coming towards us. And we're like, oh my God, we gotta get out of here. And so we ended up going down and we avoided all of the crowds. Later on, I found out I had summited on the busiest day in world history. 300 people summited on my day, and I completely avoided all of the crowds. So I'm super grateful that I had a great guide, that we just did something that most people don't do. So what other people don't realize is that it's not about getting to the top. You're exhausted, you're like, I'm done, but now you have to go all the way back down, and you don't rest at Camp 4. I took a 30-minute nap at Camp 4, and then he's like, let's go. And I'm like, so like literally for 3 days, I didn't sleep. I was just like going, hardest day of my life, going, hardest day of my life. And now I'm like depleted, exhausted, and we're going down the mountain, which is the most dangerous part because you're so tired and it's dangerous. So here I am going down. We get down from Camp 4, we get down to Camp 3, then we finally get to Camp 2 where I don't need oxygen anymore because I'm still on oxygen here. And I just remember I was so tired. My entire body was convulsing. Like every inch of my body was just shaking and convulsing. Like I have nothing. I'm negative depleted. There's nothing left in me to do anything. And I remember my guide Abby just like rolling me into my sleeping bag and like zipping me up. And I didn't grab my mattress pad. I didn't blow up my mattress pad or my phone thing. I didn't grab anything. I just slept on the icy rock floor. I was so tired, I didn't even care. It was like the most intense sleep I've ever had in my life. I just like closed my eyes and I was like out. I was out. I was so exhausted. When I look back at this experience, like it's just really hard to put into words like what it means to climb Everest. I mean, the preparation, the mental capacity, the physical capacity, like all of these things that you go through, it pushes you to your absolute limit, mentally, physically, emotionally. You don't have contact with the outside world. This expedition took 2 months. And it really changes who you are and like what you think is possible. It changes you at your core. And the way you think about reality, the way reality feels is different, but the way you feel about yourself feels different. And I don't think everyone here has to climb Everest to get to that point where you have like massive transformation and believe that things are possible. But there's not a lot of places and situations in our lives where we completely detach from all of the chatter of phones and technology and social media and all the things that we hear all the time. When you're outdoors and in nature, it's gone. It's just quiet and you can be peaceful. So I just really want to encourage people that I love outdoors. I don't think it has to be outdoors for you. But, to anyone that wants to grow bigger, I challenge you to just try like one hard thing that you didn't think was possible and see how, even if you don't get there, the fact that you just made that one transition, it makes you think about what's possible differently as well. So I hope I left you with something to bring back to think about your own life, about like what is that one thing that I can do to make myself learn and grow and become a little bit more like the real person I am inside. And so with that, I've been talking a lot. So now I would love to segue into any questions or anything that you might have. If you would like, I also have like a QR code if you want to follow my next expedition to Antarctica. So, but with that, we'll segue into any questions.